With Session Update, I'm Julie Bartkey. Not much progress has been made in the negotiations on the three big pieces of legislation left to be done this session. Governor Mark Dayton met with legislative leaders around 1:30 today, and he met with the media shortly after that meeting concluded. Well, it's now clear that the legislature will not adjourn sine die tonight, which was a deadline set by the House GOP early in session. Right now, we want to show you the governor's remarks from earlier today.
We had a constructive 2-hour meeting. We didn't reach any agreements, but we agreed to keep discussing the areas where we still have our differences, which is the tax bill, the bonding bill, and ultimately the stadium bill. And so we're going to respond to their last tax offer. The DFL will within the next couple of hours, hopefully, and then see where we go from there.
Meet again in a couple hours?
I don't know whether we'll meet again or not. Depends on their floor schedules and the like. But we'll have information for them, a response that they requested. They submitted the last tax offer last Friday, so it's our turn to respond. So we'll get that put together, hopefully in the next couple hours.
You become more optimistic about reaching an agreement after this meeting?
The same as before. It's possible. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. But you know, we have some significant differences on the tax bill. Very clear about that, so we'll have to see what's possible.
Governor, are you doing your chances on the tax bill?
What?
Have you narrowed?
We certainly define them. I don't know that we've narrowed, what they are. So I'll have to see if we can find somewhere in the middle between us.
Do you get a sense that they're being specifically a part of the conversation? I know you want to keep them separate, but is that
everything is a part. I think again the leaders have to speak for themselves, but I think they want a resolution on the tax bill before they're going to bring up the stadium bill, and I think the chances of it passing with bipartisan support requires that. So, but they can give you their analysis, but my sense is that that's where they are anyway.
Is your sense that the May 1st deadline, which seems strong on the House side, is that a factor in all of this right now?
Well, I mean, to talk to the speaker, I certainly understand why it hasn't worked out. I think he certainly deserves credit for trying, but there's just more that needs to be done. To me, they got till May 20th or 21st constitutionally. It's more important to get all this resolved successfully than it is to meet some other date. So I've encouraged them to stay for as long as they need to get all of this resolved.
Did they make any proclamations that they were going to meet here at the midnight deadline?
No, nobody mentioned anything like that, and the deadline or end of the session was really not discussed at all. So it's really it's talking about how we can continue to negotiate and see if we can reach a successful resolution.
Did you know your differences on the bonding bill?
The bonding bill was really secondary. I think that the sense was from both sides that that's much more amenable to a successful resolution than the tax bill. So most of the time was spent focused on the tax bill, a little bit on the stadium, but most of it on the tax.
What did you discuss in the stadium?
Just really almost procedurally what would happen and whether it would go to conference committee, how long it would take to get off the floor, respectively, in the Senate and the House, how long it would take to go to conference committee, what the sequence would then be, and so it was really more about the legislative logistics than it was about the content.
Governor, did you ask them to guarantee a floor vote on the Viking Stadium bill, and if so, what did they tell you?
Well, I reiterated what I said last week and over the weekend, which is that I believe that the stadium bill deserves an up or down vote in both the House and the Senate, regardless of what happens with anything else. And that's not a view that's entirely shared. So I don't have control over the House or Senate floor agenda. So other people's opinions matter more than mine.
Governor, have you or do you intend to move up your resistance to using the reserve for the tax bill?
Well, I think it's fiscally irresponsible when we're looking at a projected $1.1 billion deficit for the next biennium to be adding, first it was for the school shift payback, $425 million that was going to be taken out of the reserve, and I thought that was unwise, and I think taking $145 million, as the current proposal proposes, out of the next biennium, adding that amount to the projected $1.1 billion deficit is fiscally unsound and unwise. So that's that's one of the hang-ups, and we were trying to see if there's any way to work with that.
Governor, how would you characterize it? The overall tone of the talks, do you get the sense that this session will continue for days, maybe even longer, to get all this done?
I don't know. I'd have to defer to the four of them, especially the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker, in terms of what their logistics are and the like. I mean, it was we were a candid meeting in the sense that we were clear about what our differences are. It was certainly a very respectful meeting. We, even shared a few laughs, but it was serious and without final resolution.
But they didn't threaten to walk away today or tonight.
No threats.
Talks will continue. So, from that standpoint, are you encouraged?
Well, there are no threats whatsoever by anybody. There was, this is our situation. This is our situation. This is how our caucus feels. This is how our caucus feels. And I think people were very honest and forthright, which was very useful. And but that's why it stayed on a very even keel.
Any progress on the tax bill?
Well, we're going to, again, respond to their request for a response in the next couple of hours. I think that'll provide a basis, hopefully, for both all four caucuses and their tax leaders to sit down either today or first thing tomorrow and see if they can then use their last offer, our response, as a basis for finding somewhere in between that they can live with and we can live with.
So the progress is you really keep talking.
Exactly.
Anything on bonding?
Bonding was, as I say, really not discussed in detail, and the sense was that could be worked out.
What time do you come back to talk about this?
Well, I'm meeting with Representative Torkelson right now on a bill he has, and then after that I'm going to sit down with our tax people and discuss what the parameters of a response might be, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you.
You were watching Governor Mark Dayton from about an hour ago, and as you heard, the governor and legislative leaders have ongoing negotiations on the tax, bonding, and stadium bills. With Session Update, I'm Julie Bartkey. Not much progress has been made in the negotiations on the three big pieces of legislation that remain this session. Governor Mark Dayton met with the legislative leaders around 1:30 today. The GOP leaders met with the media for an update on those negotiations about an hour ago. And essentially, the governor and GOP are hung up on the tax bill, which includes a blend of tax credits and a freeze on the business property tax. House Minority Leader Paul Thiessen spoke after that, but we'd like to air the GOP media availabilities at this time.
Yeah.
Got hung up on
All
that.
right. Well, first and foremost, we are very sorry we did not come out and chat with you. We were going to have some offers back and forth rather than bore you with the details of we don't have anything to say. So apologies, please, all around. We'll be happy to do that next time, even if there is no offer. But that is the news. Is we've had a discussion about the things that we've been talking about all along, which are the tax bill or jobs bill, the infrastructure repair bill, and of course the Viking Stadium. The three moving parts haven't changed. It's just a matter of how it looks, what the pieces of the parts are, and then how they all fit together to end session in a timely manner.
Was your offer?
Well, I just add to that a lot of emphasis, obviously, on the tax bill and trying to work that out with the governor, make something work. There's some things there that he doesn't like. How do you backfill those if you can? And so, I mean, I would say no special progress except the fact that we're moving forward, and we didn't dead end this thing. We're going to move forward and try to make something work. You never give up until the end, so to speak, and we're not going to this time around either. So we'll continue to work with the governor. Look forward to that. It was a cordial, I think, meeting. There was no none of the back and forth, the bantering or anything like that. It was just a good, cordial discussion, and I think, generally speaking, positive, albeit, not very guided in the way of any particular progress. But maybe the progress is that we're still talking.
You have a new adjournment date?
I don't think we do at this point. I think we're going to work up to the level of the need, whatever that might be. And as speakers pointed out, we've got the tax bill. We're certainly looking at bonding, and of course the stadium is in front of us. And where that goes, nobody knows. But those are the three big issues facing the Minnesota legislature. We've wrapped this up.
Was your tax position basically the tax conference committee report?
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, you had insisted up until, I think, Friday that you would be done today. What happened?
Well, again, and I think it was Senator Bach and I, wrong side, Senator Senator Senjum and Representative Thiessen, right side. We set a deadline so that there is a deadline. There's the constitutional deadline, but based on the work we had, we thought it was better to get done sooner rather than later. If we come to agreement again today or tomorrow, it's maybe an extra day or two. But again, Senator Bach and I were probably a little more aggressive than others, which is fine. If in this case I have to admit that I was wrong, that we weren't quite done, I'm a big man, I can do that. Dave and I are proving that by standing in this corner.
You said maybe another day or two. Is even that realistic?
Well, we'll see as the day goes along.
Are you going to come back into session tomorrow and burn another session day?
Well, if we have things to take up, we'll come into session. If we don't, we're also not going to waste time down here working on, we didn't come in yesterday, which is usually a tradition, but if we would have had, if had agreement on things, we could have come in and probably in the afternoon session and finished everything up. So we will, use the days as they're, absolutely necessary but pertinent for finishing up as well.
Are you prepared to go as far as the 21st, or when you run out of legislative days, to get what you want in terms of the tax bill?
I think I'm going to quit guessing on days.
Yeah, no, what about the ice? Can I just say something though, and just a little disappointed. We sent the troops home over the Sunday, but the leaders were here ready to work, and not to just not to make a big deal out of it. But I think we wasted a Sunday, and at this point in time in the session, that was unfortunate. Certainly, we gathered up today, and that was good. But we could have probably made some progress yesterday, maybe saved a day.
How optimistic are you that you can reach an agreement on the tax bill?
Oh, mildly optimistic, but there's great differences here in terms of, especially on the tail side, and we'd like to have a tax bill that went forward and created jobs and prosperity in Minnesota, and that's going to require some prolonged tax breaks, not just an annual kind of program. So a little disappointed. Again, we continue to work.
How about the idea of not taking up the stadium until the tax bill is done? Does that still hold firm that if there is no deal on the tax bill, then there is no vote on the stadium?
I don't think we ever said that, but I think our program. Our program is to get the tax bill, we'll take a look at bonding bill, and as we go down that hill, the stadium is there in front of us, and we'll see where that goes.
I think it's, again, to be clear, most Minnesotans had said to us that the priority should be, again, you do anything polling-wise or look at anything on TV, and it's always what's Minnesotans' number one priority? Jobs and the economy. So we listen to that. The second thing, traditionally in this year, is to do a bonding bill, to repair that infrastructure that is either dilapidated, it needs some fix-ups, maybe something new, but we had said very clearly that we're going to fix what we have here first before we add on to that burden. So we came in and focused on that. Now, to all of a sudden change course on a Saturday afternoon, and again, when we've been waiting for an offer since the 27th, I think is a little disappointing to us, but I would say more disappointing to most Minnesotans that said, wait, do all of them at the same time. Don't focus on one thing, albeit it's probably the thing that gets the most media attention, but fixing up a wastewater infrastructure system for a small town in Minnesota is just as important to that town, or flood relief, or a local road or a local bridge. So to say that we should focus on one thing at one time, this cannot be a one-issue session. It should be a multiple-issue session and address all those needs, not just one at one time.
So does that mean that you will take up the stadium bill before a tax bill is done, or not?
Again, if there isn't negotiations or if there isn't agreement on either a tax bill or a bonding bill, I don't know how you can take up one without having at least consideration of all of them. And I think our priorities very clearly all along have been that the bonding bill and or infrastructure bill and the tax bill are our number one priorities. And the governor's number one priority is the stadium. So if we can come to agreement on all of them at the same time, they can all come up.
I just want to emphasize, too, just how absolutely, and I think the speakers pointed this out, but I just want to emphasize, this tax bill is a great, great big deal for the Senate Republicans. As we caucus up and talk about what's priorities around here, and I tell you what, how did we win the majority 2 years ago? It was the jobs and the economy. How do we grow this economy? You've got to look at your at your tax program. And this is huge. This is huge. We're going to stand pretty strong in terms of insisting that we get a good tax bill out of this session. We're hopeful that we can do that. But it is absolutely huge from the standpoint of our priority.
What's your response to the governor when he says that you're going to drain too many of the reserves by doing the tax relief?
My good grief, we've okay. You got to be prudent. We know that, but we got $1 billion worth of reserves here. I mean, might there be $147 million that we can use in the tails to make this thing work? I kind of think so.
And I would say from, again, you talk with a small business owner across the state, and she's looking at purchasing a new roller for whatever packages that come off the assembly line in her business. She looks at the upfront equipment exemption and says, okay, I don't have to wait 6 or 7 months now to get that upfront exemption. All right, I'll make the play then, or I'll make that purchase. She's now more productive. Maybe she hires 2 more delivery drivers. Maybe she hires 2 more people for the line. But now on that side, we're going to be more productive on that side of the ledger. Now, and that's the way this place goes. We could all have a very long and boring conversation about static versus dynamic scoring, and you'd all go to sleep and leave in about 3 seconds. But that's the other side of the ledger. And if her business is more productive, if she's able to hire more people, those people have jobs, those people buy houses, cars, go out and make some purchases on their own, we will see the revenue come up on that other side. But that's the philosophical conversation. But what we've heard from business owners, especially when it comes to the upfront equipment exemption or an R&D tax credit, those are things that will make an impact today. And those decisions are going to be made this summer. We think that's a good idea to have to set, excuse me, not only that priority, but also give that option out there. So if it is the one linchpin, and if it's one business owner, if it's 100, it's good for Minnesota.
Gentlemen, if the governor were thinking to himself that the legislature, the Republican-controlled legislature, can't very well end the session without at least a vote on a Viking Stadium bill and go back to voters and be able to give any reasonable excuse for not voting on a Viking Stadium bill, would the governor be correct or incorrect in that assessment?
Well, I think this is a mix at this point. Sure, there's a lot of people interested in the Vikings, but as, again, we continue to say, there's a lot of people interested in jobs and prosperity, and that's all centered around that tax bill. And I will tell you as legislators, and again, once again, from the standpoint of our caucus, that is absolutely key, that we've got to have a strong tax bill.
So if you don't vote on a Viking Stadium bill before you leave here, you don't think that the political penalty would be particularly bad at the polls this fall?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I think people understand. I think in Minnesota what the priorities are, and that's jobs and the economy and making the state go forward. The Minnesota Vikings are an important element in all that. We don't say that that it's not, but for right now, I think Kurt and I, House and Senate, are focusing on this tax bill and trying to make it work.
So what's your roadmap now? What do you do anything else today? Do you adjourn to a certain date? How are you going to make these decisions?
We'll be available. I think we're going to probably meet up with the governor and the legislative leaders again yet today. I think there are a few bills back and forth on the calendars that need to be finished up, but we'll maybe know more in the afternoon, and we promise we will not leave without coming out to talk to all of you.
And what do you have to do? What type of agreement do you need to do to be back in tomorrow, or like somebody else would say, are you in recess for a couple of days? What's the thought process here?
I think at this point, at least right now, maybe in an hour or two, we'll have a better idea, but I don't know if we just know right yet. Yeah.
Speaker Zeller's right now on the House floor. They're debating increasing purses at Canterbury by allowing simulcasting and whatnot. Where do you stand on that?
I think it's a great idea. It's something that, it's for someone who's been a co-author of the Racino proposal, that was always something that I was a little bit more in favor of. But to see both sides come together on this, especially the two that have kind of been at the middle of the fight, whether it's Mystic Lake and the Canterbury folks, I think it is something, especially the simulcasting, on property. I think that is an opportunity. Again, if you are, which was always my personal preference, is to make sure that the horse industry survives. Maybe not the gambling industry expands, but that the horse industry survives. This is a great proposal. Allows for some growth. Allows for maybe some bigger poker tournaments. I'm not one of those kind of guys, but if it allows for some folks from surrounding states to come down here for a weekend and maybe they spend a little bit more time, if they get knocked out of the tournament early, then they can run up to the Mall of America where we don't tax clothes.
Senator, did you vote for it in the Senate?
Oh, sure. And, you know, it's all about this horse industry. I don't think we really completely understand what a great new industry this can be if we can feed it a little bit through these purses and compete with these out-of-state tracks. It's going to be good for Canterbury. I think without it, we lose the track. We're going to lose this, what we have out there, which is a magnificent facility. A lot of people go out there and have a lot of fun, and this, I think, is going to help it sustain itself, certainly for a while.
And the understanding is that this would stop the push for Racino, is that right?
I'm not sure about that, but I would suggest that there's an agreement here, and I think it probably takes a little bit of the pressure off the Racino debate for a while.
What? Well, I don't know, but I mean, from my perspective, again, it's a cooperation between the folks that are there for the horse industry and some of their neighboring tribal interests that have gambling as well. So again, if it allows, as Dave said, allows the horse industry to have bigger purses, and we now compete with Iowa or we compete with other states to keep our horse industry and to keep those folks who come here and spend a lot of money on the weekends for those horse races, we keep them viable and can maybe compete on another level. I think that's great for the horse industry. It's great for us as a state.
The governor suggested the bonding bill can be worked out relatively easily. Is that kind of your sense too, Speaker?
He's the bonding chair. I got to go to him first.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, through the last month or so, we have various iterations of this thing. We can cut and paste and patch and mold something together pretty quickly.
And what's the biggest number that you've had in any of your iterations?
496 on our side.
You still can't go above 496.
We talked about it this morning in caucus, and that's about where we are. Yes.
And
that's above the two-year average. Two-year average, depending on whose math, and if you include cancellations, it's anywhere from about 417 to 428, 29. So, I'm sorry, 917, 928, someplace in there. So if you figure 4, almost 5 last year, about 417, 420 would be the number this year. We obviously have the capital on the outside. This is maybe putting it in the burger instead of putting it on the outside. But we had a different version. So if it's that number plus the capital inside, I think that's I defer to the chairs, and Senator Senjum's done a great job putting together a bill that funds a lot of priorities, the things we've been talking about, the fix-ups, things that need concrete, rebar, and steel versus paint and wallpaper.
And you think you can get enough Democratic votes to make it work at about $500 million?
We remain optimistic, even though in the House we've been burned once on that. We'll try again because it's important for Minnesotans, and it will also be an idea of let them know where the two caucuses are on it, and let them know that we absolutely were working to come to that compromise.
Do you have to have a deal with the governor on bonding before it comes up on the floor?
I don't think so. It's important. I don't suggest we don't involve him, but. As for instance, Senator Langston and I did spend Sunday working on a bonding bill and, kind of cross-fertilizing ideas and trying to make something that both sides could work with. And so we'll continue to work.
And that was a $500 million bonding bill?
Yeah, 496. Couldn't go quite that high.
Will you move forward with the bonding bill without agreement on the tax bill?
Oh, boy. I don't know. This is, we play this minute by minute. To offer any specific answers along those lines, I think, is probably premature and probably inappropriate. We're just working on this tax bill. Just make this tax bill work, Governor. That's what's important.
And then if it comes together, then everything else comes together? Is that what we hear?
Again, I don't know if I'm the best guy with it. My crystal ball's got a little fog in it, so I think there's an opportunity then to go to the bonding, and then whether it's a stadium or whether it's there's a couple other things that are out there. I know the environment bill is still in question, and so it's all these things. And I think we said one other time that having a global deal on everything all at once this session may not be there, but you kind of got to get agreement on all of the things before we're able to get out of here.
What are the issues with the environment bill?
I don't know. They just said it's not there yet, so I take the chair's word for it and the governor's officer's word for it. So I think Representative Torkelson was meeting with the governor earlier this afternoon. So
I just want to emphasize we had a good meeting with the governor and the respective minority leaders, and I'm just hopeful as we go through the rest of this day that we can make something out of it that's positive, not only for us as legislators who want to get something done, but certainly the people in Minnesota.
To be clear, the big three bills are not coming up today. Is that right?
I don't believe so.
No.
Did you put HVAC in here for them, or?
It's in the bonding bill.
So can you go to 500 million now?
That's the last four.
No, might be the last four. That's right. Well,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
very much.
Sorry again for not
All
being
right.
here.
Yes, come on up. You spoke for 23 minutes.
You were just watching the GOP leaders discussing their negotiations with the governor. House Minority Leader Paul Thiessen said after that GOP media availability that the Viking Stadium bill deserves an up or down vote on the House floor. He asks that the Speaker make it happen. Well, this concludes our coverage for the day. We plan to be back on the air at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm Julie Bartkey, and from all of us at Senate Media and House Public Information Services, thank you for watching.